Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with your story for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. The Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, also known as Weston State Hospital in West Virginia, served as a home for the mentally ill from 1864 to 1994. It was later privately purchased in 2007 and transformed into a museum when it became a popular location for ghost hunting. Despite its bleak and disturbing history, I had the opportunity to share my knowledge of the asylum with thousands of visitors during my time as a guide and event manager for ghost hunting tours. Unfortunately, I had to retire from this role due to burnout in 2021. However, my experiences at the asylum have convinced me that paranormal events outside of the realm of scientific explanation do occur, and that certain phenomena, such as electronic voice recordings, are genuine. Here are some of the strange occurrences that I witnessed during my time at the asylum. One evening, while I was receiving training for the job, I was with a couple of colleagues on the first floor, while the rest of the group was touring the upper floors. We were just waiting around and observing the area when I noticed that there was a light coming in through the windows, which cast a perfectly proportioned silhouette of a man on the inner hallway wall. I called the attention of my co-workers to the strange sight, and together all three of us watched as an arm and hand emerged from the shadows on the right side and moved into the light. I immediately ran to the room the light had been emanating from and looked out of the window for someone outside, but there was no one there. It didn't even occur to me at the time that the distance from the ground to the base of the window was somewhere around 7 feet. The crisp, clear silhouette of the figure is something that I will never forget. On other occasions, we would often conduct experiments using a spirit box, a device that rapidly scans radio frequencies and is believed by some to be a tool for communication with the deceased. One person would wear noise-cancelling earbuds and listen to the radio static and intermittent bleeps from various stations. If they heard a word or phrase, they would say it out loud. This would usually be the more interesting role in the experiment. One evening, my co-worker and I conducted one of these experiments in a room with a notorious reputation in which a person had been slain back in 1987. For 10 minutes I listened, but I could only hear radio static through the spirit box. There were no blips or other interruptions. I was starting to get restless when, finally, I heard the voice of a woman say evil. So I repeated the word out loud. It was at this time that my co-worker had, unknown to me at that moment, also been alerted by a sound in the hallway. She suddenly shone a flashlight in my face while urgently telling me that it was time to leave. We quickly left the room and patrolled the hallway, where my co-worker revealed that she had heard the sound of shuffling footsteps, as if someone had been pacing around just outside the door. However, the realization of how both of our experiences intersected left us stunned. The reason being that the moment she had asked, "Whoever is outside in the hallway, are you friendly?" had been the very same moment that I had announced what I had heard and had said the word evil. In the early hours of one particular morning, we decided to see what would happen if we closed all of the doors on the ward. As I was closing one of the doors, the knob turned in my hand, even though my hand had been completely still, and the door was forcibly slammed shut right in front of me. I stood there stunned for a few moments, trying to open and close the door and replicate what had just happened, and attempting to explain it. Eventually my co-worker asked, "What the hell are you doing?" I just stared back at them, dumbfounded. It was such a strange experience, and I had never encountered anything like it before. Whatever that force or presence was, it seemed to be incredibly powerful. On a subsequent occasion, we had 3 investigators spend the night on site, utilising thermal imaging video equipment. They set it up so that we could all watch its feed on a tablet with the equipment pointed at a position down the hallway. We also thought it would be interesting to place another device at the end of the hall that would sound an alert if the surrounding electromagnetic signature of the area was interrupted. As one of the investigators walked down the hall to place it, we could see his form on the thermal imaging video, clearly human-shaped with colours indicating a normal, warm human body temperature. However, as he walked by one of the doorways, about a quarter of the way down the ward, the thermal imaging video showed the shape of a head, neck, shoulders and upper body of a person in cooler colours peeking out of the room as if they were inspecting him. I had never seen anything like it and would give anything for a copy of that footage. Unfortunately, it happened often that investigators and visitors would capture something unusual and wouldn't send us a copy. However, there was one particular set of experiences that had a profound impact on me and that continues to baffle and unsettle me. I remember the exact days and at which time they both occurred, that being the 3rd and 4th of June 2017 at around 3:40 a.m. In the early hours of June the 3rd, I was sitting in silence on the floor with the tour group when, out of nowhere, and seemingly with the rest of the group oblivious, I started to hear a woman's voice. It was accompanied by various noises, such as banging and footsteps, as well as the apparent sound of someone sprinting towards us on the hardwood floor. Despite feeling dizzy, lightheaded and unwell, I tried to convince myself that it was all just my imagination and that I must be having some kind of panic attack, even though I had never had any history of it. However, a few minutes later, I started to feel a sharp and severe sensation of burning on the lower part of my back, positioned slightly to the right of my spine. I just kept repeating to myself again and again that it was all in my head, but the sensation only seemed to worsen. I didn't want to be the kind of person to stir up a drama in public, but eventually the pain became too much to bear. I asked my co-worker if she had noticed anything, and she was shocked to see a mark on my lower back that looked like a burn or abrasion. It was about 3 to 4 inches long and 1 inch wide. I had seen other visitors with similar so-called scratch marks, and they usually disappeared within an hour. However, the mark on my back was visible for almost a week, and even now my nerves in that area still often feel unsettled, with an accompanying experience of unexplained shivers or soreness whenever I'm there. Again, on June 4th, I found myself in the same part of the building as the previous night, around the same time. I was holding my voice recorder in my right hand and using a flashlight with my left hand to see what I was doing, when I noticed that the device had run out of memory. Suddenly, like the previous night, I felt the same intense burning sensation, but this time it was on the underside of my right forearm. In shock, I shifted the flashlight to see what was causing it. The person next to me and I watched as 3 welts began to appear on my arm. It was a terrifying experience to not only see marks like that, but to actually watch them appear on my own skin. These marks were also frequently reported by visitors and would usually disappear within 10 to 15 minutes and with no lasting effects. I'm not sure scared is the right word to describe how I felt after those events, but I really don't have any other words to accurately convey my state of mind. The experience was so unsettling that I took a week of vacation from my job to try and process it all, and for the whole rest of that summer I was anxious about being in that hallway again. Even now, I still don't know what to think or believe about it all. I've probably accumulated enough stories from my time at Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum to fill an entire book, but for now I'll just share these with you. It's worth noting that spending so much time delving into the unsettling past of the asylum and investigating the supernatural can really wear on a person both mentally and emotionally. It's no wonder that I felt the need to take a break from it all after my time there. In fact, I believe that my departure from the asylum contributed to an overall improvement in my mental health and well-being. I used to tell people that leaving that place felt like escaping a toxic relationship.